Every Saturday morning was the same. I would wake up to the smell of freshly brewed coffee wafting through our small apartment and the gentle hum of Sarah humming one of her favorite melodies in the kitchen. It was a sacred ritual. I'd slip out of bed, stretch out the grogginess, and walk barefoot onto the cool tiles, feeling the hint of a chill from the open window. The sun was just beginning to rise, soft orange light spilling over the forest of potted plants she insisted on cultivating despite my occasional grumbles about the lack of space. "Good morning," she'd chirp as I strolled into the kitchen, the rhythm of her smile striking a warm chord inside me. I loved these moments, sharing breakfast and simple laughter, relishing the mundane, believing we were building a life together. But in the back of my mind, unease tended to creep in on the edges, like shadows lurking in the corner of a room you've known for years but suddenly feel unfamiliar. Things had changed over the last month. Subtle signs. First messages flooded her phone, with notifications chiming in the middle of fun banter. When I'd ask her about it, brushing my thumb over the corner of her screen as she'd pocket it too quickly, she'd throw me a smile, though it hardly reached her eyes. "Just work stuff," she'd say lightly as her voice trailed off and she busied herself with ladling pancake batter onto a sizzling skillet. But shadows deepened. Her laughter became muffled, tucked beneath layers of distance I couldn't understand. One Sunday, while cleaning out the back drawer of our shared desk, I found a receipt unusual, marked from a hotel in the city just days ago. The ink was fresh, the date painfully sharp against the strange knot twisting in my stomach. I brushed it off initially. After all, I had prided myself on trusting her. Maybe she was planning a surprise for me. But then, the hotel name nudged at my memory. We had never been there together. As the weeks rolled on, her routines shifted. She started arriving home late, too late often, with an unfamiliar scent of cologne clinging to her blouse or hair. I'd noticed it during a casual cook-off, where she stole glances at her phone, fingers dancing wildly on the screen when she thought I wasn't looking. The quickened pace of her heart told me she was evading something, and it pinched at my insides. Each unanswered question hung between us, a thread ready to snap. I recalled a time when we would lay curled up together, sharing dreams and mapping endless possibilities. Remembering that moment made my heart ache, a moment I wished to return to, where trust hadn't been tainted. I clenched my jaw, the reality around us vibrating in a painful contradiction to the memories we once shared. What did this mean for us? As I stared at the darkening ceiling, barely able to fall asleep as I replayed her movements, the tension clawed at me relentlessly. Then there were the late-night phone calls. I'd hear her laughing in the living room while I feigned sleep in the dim light of our bedroom. My chest felt tight, my stomach somersaulting each time I saw little signs of something off. I hadn't even picked up my camera, a hobby I used to dive into with joy simply because I didn't want to absorb the reflection of despair rooted in betrayal. But I wanted to believe that night when she walked in late, anxiety draped all over her in layers, but she still kissed me like everything was okay, as if the world hadn't smirked at my heart. "I missed you," she whispered, slipping into bed beside me, warmth radiating off her skin. Yet, it wasn't her words that rang most true, but the haunting unease lurking in my mind. The next part felt inevitable. With a grim sense of purpose that perhaps I'd been avoiding all this time, I decided to follow her. I couldn't shake the feeling that something deeper lay beneath the surface of her laughter and sweet nothings. The dread of what I might discover gnawed at me, but clarity brewed with the time spent sorting through shadows. I took in the familiar streets, emotions marrow deep as I tracked her discreetly, blending into the chorus of life around me. I caught glimpses of her hair as the wind danced through it. She was laughing again, a sound biting into my resolve. I slipped into the corner of a cafe, beverage untouched, heart thrumming with anticipation. I didn't want to watch her laugh with someone else. The notion was bitter, even as adrenaline climbed and curiosity clawed at my gut. But I told myself I had to know the truth. I had to put the remaining pieces together. And when I finally saw her, the unmistakable embrace with a man I didn't recognize, confidence and ease floating between them, it hit me like a tidal wave, crashing down too hard, too fast, sucking away every last wisp of the trust I had held tight. I felt hollow, angering the ache of disbelief swelling in my throat. How could she use the life we built for her own selfishness? No longer loitering in shock, I embraced clarity burning through me. I had to take back what was mine: the home, the business, the shared dreams that she thought she could so easily squander. It was time to reclaim myself, to turn the unease into strength, and set our lives ablaze in a different kind of fire. The confrontation unfolded exactly as the sun dipped low in the sky, casting an ominous orange glow through the large expanses of glass that lined our office. I could feel the weight of every decision pressing down on me as I sat in her chair, waiting for Erica to come back from a meeting, her words, not mine. The entire space felt surreal now. This was the place that had thrummed with creativity, laughter, and visions of future projects, but today it was charged with an electrifying tension I could feel coiled like a tight spring within me. The receptionist had left early, granting me the privacy I needed to stew in the inevitable rage twisting beneath my skin. The coffee pot sat silent in the corner, a neglected artifact from better times. My gaze drifted to the framed photos lining the walls, snapshots of us at gala events, laughing amid the foliage of our designs, pride radiating from both of us. I barely recognized the faces then. Today, those images made my heart ache. They were like scattered ashes of a life I no longer wanted. Erica stepped through the doorway with her usual flurry, chatting on the phone, absorbed in her world, oblivious to the storm nearing. I could hear the sound of her laughter, light and easy, and I felt the fire in my chest rekindle. "Hey, babe. I'm back, you won't believe." I stood up, and she froze, her voice trailing off as her gaze met mine. Forgetting the phone, she let it drop, the sound echoing like a crack of thunder in the stillness. "You won't believe what I saw today," I quipped, my voice low, almost a growl. She looked small, caught off guard, and suddenly the balance of power shifted. "Or maybe you will." "What's going on, Liam?" she asked, struggling but managing a tone of feigned innocence. There was a glint of confusion in her eyes, as if she couldn't quite piece together what was happening. I stepped closer, pulling my phone from my pocket. A flick of my finger displayed the images I captured moments ago, her and that man intertwined in a cafe booth, oblivious to the world, laughter bubbling between them like champagne. "Is this work stuff?" I asked, my voice trembling yet solid, clinging to anger. "Because I think it's safe to say it looks more like an affair." Her face paled, the blood draining so fast it was as if it pooled into a deep pit at her feet. "Liam, I didn't." "Don't lie to me," I interrupted, my heart pounding in my chest alongside a boiling frustration. "I followed you because I refused to believe that the woman I loved could tear our lives apart for someone else." "Wait, you followed me?" she stammered, panic flushing her features. It was a fleeting glimpse of vulnerability, but it only fueled my fury. "You think I'd sit idly by while you treat us like we're some second-rate show?" I couldn't suppress the heat spilling from my words now. "You're using my business, my legacy, to support this. Does he know about the company? About how hard I've worked? Or do you just use that charm to make him believe you're something you're not?" "Liam, please," she pleaded, but there was no softness left in my heart for her sounds of regret. I pointed to the office door, my fingers trembling slightly as I locked eyes with her. "You need to leave," I instructed, cold and unyielding. "All of this, it's over." "I'll pack my things," she wheezed. "But I can explain. I realized I was unhappy, okay? You were so engrossed in your business, and we started drifting apart. And that justifies betrayal." My tone was as sharp as glass, cutting into the silence with precision. "You stole from me, from what we built. If I'm going down, you're crashing with me." Her eyes widened, the realization dawning that I wouldn't just let this go. "You wouldn't do that. You can't." "I already have. I'm freezing our accounts." My voice was quiet, the storm beneath barely contained. "If you want to play this game, Erica, then it's time to see how serious I am." I walked over to the console, the glossy surface reflecting our frantic energy. I grabbed my laptop, hers was beside it, unopened, untouched. My hand trembled as I pressed a few keys. "You think I wouldn't? I have everything documented, our financials, expenses, and correspondence. Everything you've siphoned away is going to be exposed." "No," her voice rose, desperation creeping like ivy. "You can't just take everything away. It was a mistake. I was caught up. I love you." A bark of cynical laughter escaped me. "Love? You've turned that word into just another tool, a hollow lie. It's time to expose the truth." I pulled my phone out once more, ready to distribute the files to our board members and clients if necessary. Just a click away from ripping apart her defenses. She stepped forward, a final attempt to reclaim the pieces of control she had squandered. "How could you do this to us? We built this together. You'll ruin everything." "The truth has a way of ruining things, not me," I fired back, tears of anger burning behind my eyelids. "You chose to ruin this when you chose him." The weight of bitterness was suffocating, and I stood transfixed, a coiled-up readiness flourishing beneath the surface. We blinked at each other, her expression quickly shifting from panic to fury, a wildfire igniting within her. "You really think you can just ruin my life and walk away? You think this won't come back to bite you? You're making a big mistake." "Then you shouldn't have made the choice to betray me," I shot back without falter. I felt the darkness of the truth solidifying and crystallizing around me. "You're right, mistakes can come back around. But I'm ready to play this game with you or without you, Erica." A sudden stillness blanketed the space. She regarded me with wide eyes, a merging of realization, regret, and something else I could not identify. Was it fear? Her carefully constructed world was starting to unravel as I began to pull apart the strings. The stakes were immeasurable. This was not just about a personal relationship, it was about control, justice, and extinguishing the facade of innocence. I watched the blood drain from her face, and even through the storm of my emotions, I felt a flicker of satisfaction from watching the rug of deception pulled from beneath her effortlessly. "I will take back what's mine, Erica," I said softly, though my resolve vibrated with certainty. "And I'll make sure no one ever forgets who you chose." With that, I felt the hollowness deep within swell its way to a quiet strength. I knew I had crossed a threshold there was no turning back. I didn't just want justice, I claimed it as retribution, a weapon against betrayal fierce enough to cut through the darkness. I would leave her broke, I would leave her alone. And as this new reality sank in, a powerful quiet settled around me, resonating with the promise of the storm that was yet to come. The courtroom buzzed with the low hum of whispers and the occasional shuffle of papers, a contrast to the suffocating tension that hung thick in the air. I sat at the front, my heart pounding in my chest, each thud echoing like a gavel striking down a hard truth. Today was the day I would dismantle the comfortable life Erica had built on lies, exposing her deception for all to see. I noticed her sitting across from me, her facade of confidence waning as reality closed in. The judge entered, and an unceremonious hush fell over the room. The proceedings began, but I could hardly focus on the legal jargon being tossed around. My mind was replaying the conversations with my lawyer, the evidence gathered meticulously over weeks of tireless work. Screenshots, bank statements, forged signatures, and a mountain of testimonies had created an unassailable case against Erica. As the hearing unfolded, I watched Erica square her shoulders. Attempts to maintain her composure crumbled with each statement from my lawyer. Her lawyer's arguments, aimed at shifting blame onto my supposed neglect and workaholism, felt feeble and desperate. I saw Erica shifting uncomfortably, processes of denial washing over her as the judge's eyes narrowed with every new piece of evidence presented. "Let's discuss the ethics of your affair and how it impacted Mr. Arrington's business and marriage," my lawyer suggested, leaning in with determination. The commotion around us felt muted, and in that moment it was just the two of us in a swirling storm of tension. As the papers were displayed, I felt a tightness in my chest ease just a little bit. Erica's forced bravado shattered when the photographs emerged, the ones taken just outside the cafe, where she had laughed, flirted, and betrayed all that we had built together. Caught in a web of her own making, she clenched her jaw and narrowed her eyes at me as if my mere existence was the source of her unraveling. I held her gaze steadily. I was unhappy, she finally admitted, the first cracks of vulnerability gaping wide. "You never listened. You didn't even notice me anymore." "That doesn't justify stealing from me and tearing apart the life we built," I shot back, my voice steady and resolute. "You chose deceit and betrayal instead of communication. This isn't just about us, this is about trust, and you broke it." After hours of back and forth, it became clear the judge was leaning in my favor. Erica's fairy tale of victimhood crumbled further as her risky, selfish decisions were laid bare. When the gavel struck to mark the recess, the air turned electric with anticipation. Just outside the court in a small waiting room, Erica was deflated, her shoulders slumped, eyes clouded with denial. I felt a flicker of satisfaction at her defeat, the culmination of my journey to reclaim everything I held dear. "Liam," she approached softly, raw desperation threading through her tone. "Please, let's talk about this. I never meant for it to go this far." Save it, my stomach churned at her attempt. I didn't want sympathy or empty apologies. "You made your choices, Erica. You used me, manipulated my trust, and turned my life upside down. I won't be a pawn in your game anymore." The anguish in her eyes was palpable as she staggered back, realizing our life together had been reset irreparably. The verdict came 2 days later. The judge, after careful consideration of the mounting evidence, ruled in favor of my claims. Erica was stripped of her claims on the business that she had spent years milking dry while juggling her infidelity. Owing me restitution for the missing funds and the damage to our professional reputation, the court demanded she cover the losses incurred, which left her financially and emotionally destitute. When the news hit her, there was no more bravado, just shattered remnants of her once carefully constructed world. I left the courthouse with a sense of purpose. I had fought for my business, for my life, and for the integrity that Erica had sought to destroy. Months passed, and I took each day in stride. I grounded myself in my work, untethered by the mistakes of the past. Slowly, I rebuilt not just the business but also my identity. My nights were filled with new projects and collaborations, buzzing with creativity rather than negating the emptiness Erica had left behind. I poured everything I had into the company, now a reflection of resilience rather than a shadow of betrayal. Freedom didn't come easy, but as the months slipped by, I regained my footing. Late nights turned into joyful laughter at dinner parties with true friends who had rallied around me, determined to lift me from the ashes of a life once marred by deceit. I began to explore dating again, hesitant but hopeful, emboldening myself to open my heart once more. One evening, I stood on my balcony overlooking the skyline, the city glowing beneath me. I felt a sense of closure settle in. I had emerged not only as a survivor but as someone who would never take my worth for granted again. In time, I would embrace love again, carrying the lessons learned into a brighter future. As I scanned the expanse of the city, I remembered the sting of betrayal but also the fierce resilience that had been born from it. I had caught Erica using my business for her affair, but through the pain, I had taken it back, emerging stronger than I ever thought possible. Now, the hustle and bustle around me felt like a promise of renewal, filled with endless possibilities unmarred by deceit. In the aftermath of the storm, I was alive, liberated, and fully determined to thrive.